Bismillah. So we've arrived at this idea of meditation, and I've explained the real meaning of meditation, as one of centering and coming back into, returning down into the true essence and kernel of the self. So the question might be now, okay, how do I meditate? What do I need to know to meditate? And where exactly am I going with meditation? Because look, one of the biggest, I suppose, misconceptions and mistakes with meditation is that, and one of the biggest complaints people bring up as well, is that they don't know where they're going. And it's a problem because the way we live life, the way we've been taught to think, you always need to have a goal in mind. You can only act according to some intention and thoughts. And in fact, not only is that not wrong, that is the very essence of meditation. If you look up the word meditation in a good dictionary, you'd see that it's about focusing and contemplating deeply about something. In fact, that is the very idea of centering. It's an idea of deepening, an idea of focusing, an idea of thereby realizing. So, before, and this is going all the way back to science and art, before you can begin the practice, the art of meditating, I do believe you need to have at least some sort of a map for where you're going with meditation and what exactly you're supposed to be doing. For after all, how can you center yourself if you don't know what that center is? So I have again and again given this tripartite division of the soul, and this is a very deep and ancient idea. It goes back to, well, I was going to say Plato, but of course it's even deeper than Plato. It's really found everywhere. But a lot of this work is taken from a book, or actually a trilogy of books I've written, which I've titled The Vision of the Oneness of Being. And ultimately, that's what this is all about. If you study the spiritual heart of any religion, ultimately it's an expression of how to come back to the oneness of being, because that's what is in the very center, pure oneness. And we have this common understanding of spirituality, which is to become one with everything. And mysticism is about oneness. But what I've done here for you is that I've expressed this map of oneness in three stages. And in a sense, this forms what we have spoken of, the spiritual science. I've also added a few terms over here to the spiritual science, which you might be interested in for other reasons. In other traditions, in other books, especially in the English tradition, these have been known as mental sciences, which is actually I find it quite a problematic term because, as I keep saying, it's not about the mind, it's about the spirit. It's about going deeper than the mind. But yet there are many books written, especially in about the 20th and 19th century, on what they call a mental science. And I mentioned the word noetic science as well. But this is a diagram I'm going to give you right now. There's three stages. The ground of being, the effusion of existence out from this ground, and therefore the generations of the self. And if we go back to our circle diagrams, this is exactly what's going on. In the inmost center, you have the ground of being. It's the ground because when you reach the center, there's nothing below it. It is the utmost foundation. And also, we have this idea of the ground, of the earth, as something generative. So from this center, and as I said, the center has this internal motion, it's spinning. You have this effusion, generation, like plants growing out of the soil. So you have the ground of being, the fusion of existence, and then you have the generations of the self, which we keep saying are in spheres, even like the generations of the world. So this is the map. This is the map we have, that your spirit is the ground of your being. Elsewise spoken, it is the oneness of your being. That is your spirit, your essence. from this ground of being, from your spirit, there's an effusion of becoming, like light, like fire. It's pouring forth, bursting forth, expanding forth, outpouring, growing. This effusion of light from your spirit is your mind. It's the pure thought energy arising from your spiritual depths. And then the mind, if you picture the mind as light, or like water, as an effusion, the mind crystallizes, just like water can crystallize into ice. The mind crystallizes into the body. And so the picture is once again this spheres. In fact, I created this map work, this diagram, to exactly delineate and draw a map of this mystical scheme. And you'll find this cosmology, this psychology, you'll find it in any spiritual tradition. If you mine into the heart of any true religion and philosophy and mystical tradition, you will find this one and the same map in different forms. And I've put over here, you can pause the video if you'd like, various synonyms for what we might term the spirit as the deep of the self, the depth, the source of all things, a mystical silence, a mystical darkness, a hiddenness, a mystery, and your essence. This is what we have at the moment. This is the map of the soul, and what I would recommend you to begin meditating is actually to study this map of the soul, and when you do meditate, meditate upon this, because it's possible, but it's not likely that you will, in one single fulgurating blast of insight, come down into the oneness of your being and realize your spirit. Usually it takes time, and I do believe that this study is the best way to get to that stage. So this is how I'd recommend people to start the process of meditating, which is actually by studying the map of the soul.